We went and made ourselves a purchase today. We got to do some things before we send this thing down the road. I think it's going to run better when we get rid of the fluorescents. A couple of those, they're a little burned out. That fuel pump that's baling wired under there. She's got the new zip ties. Tightened up the baling wire a little. I crushed fingers. Let's tear off that fire hazard felt. Ooh, the original paint color even. Get it? Oh, you're bending my hood. I feel safer already. Support is not really attached. That's fine. It's fine. It's strong. That's why it has the hood pins. So glad I spent my money on such important things. Made it about 46 miles. I think she'll make it. She's doing good so far. All the emblems. Cobra, V8, Fairlane, Ford. 289 badges up there. It also has caution tape. This really sets it off. That has a story. We'll get to that. It says EcoBoost. The paint, it shines up pretty good, but it's not real good. Hit it with a pressure washer and took all that paint off there. Sprayed her back up real close along there. That's wood glue I can't quite get off because the paint comes off way easier than it. Hood pins everywhere. He took the latches out of everything and put him in some hood pins. You can see by the distributor, that's one of those home electrical connectors. Not meant to be in a car, but you see them more than you'd like. Supercharger pulleys. And a washer assembly that rubs the belt something fierce. But the alternator charges. This is the main disconnect for the whole car. We definitely leave that off when the car's sitting. Puller fan. We haven't figured out how to turn it on. We haven't tried that hard either. We haven't traced the lamp cord. Mirror. That mirror just looks at this mirror. If you squint and stick your head to the right real far and look that way and, wiggle, you can almost see something out of the mirror on the other fender. As you can see, he painted the pedals, more of the home electrical, and a horn button, and a horn button, and a horn button. The set deck. It's got the factory radio. Got a CB radio. A-track. Up here there was another radio. 5 separate head units with all of about 22 different speakers running in here. All the gauges are different colors. All these seat covers are like fleece blankets. This is like some 90s couch covering. There's a lot of these jammed in the ceiling. More speakers. More speakers. A few more speakers and some speakers and some speakers and some speakers and some speakers. A battery. It has these posts on each side of the shifter here. I disconnected these. These ran out to the battery under the hood. And then they connected to these guys. Oh, you can see that spark in there. It's because these charge the battery in the back seat. Into this trunk here. Hood pins. There's an inverter and a battery. This battery doesn't hold a charge, so I haven't been able to turn any of this on and really take in what it all does. These are hydraulics. They used to mount kind of here. They would run when you'd get the batteries hooked up front to back, and they'd open the trunk lid and they'd hold it open. See, this here was why all the wood glue was on the car. This here is quarter round wood. I gotta go with this one. Oh, yeah, that's that one. The third one. Turn that switch on there. That's what gets her all riled up. If you don't know all the sequence to the turning it on, the only way to shut it off is to just kill the power. We did figure out the exact on-off scenario from inside the car that does allow you to shut it off. But when it was given to us, we were told that's how you shut off the car. They only painted the wheels on the outside edge of the hubcaps. I got my trusty wire fixing tool. Empty truck bed. That's a good place to start. Quality of the install here. Yeah, it's fine. Strong. There's a lot of the wiring. So I think I just found out why my turn signals don't work. They were just sitting in there. Like that. That's how you want your rear wiring lights and everything to be. Fairlane 500. Speaker 1. Alligator clips. Oh, that's good stuff. I'm guessing this wasn't working back here because I wasn't creasing wires good enough. Megatron. It's a Decepticon battery. Don't worry about it. Oh, get it myself. This won't let go. Get out of here, you stapled mess of garbage. Don't know what it is. Another clippy speaker. Grab them all. Antennas. I like it. It's only the highest quality of mounting and wiring and bestest of things. Unwire, engage. Oh, still didn't have them all. Oh man, it's looking better already. That was a lot of man hours taken into making that horrible. I had the ability to just run wood screws into steel. There. This guy wins the Cobbler Award of the Year. He had the lens off, and he was doing wiring inside the lens. There we go. You know, you can get upset about something somebody previously did to something you bought, but you do have to remember, you bought it. At the end of the day, decisions were decisions. I definitely knew this one had a wiring problem when I bought it. Oh, it's like, how does it just keeps coming out? It's like a crazy clown scarf. It says neon clock. We're gonna have to look for a neon clock. I might get a neon clock out of this deal. Rolling in rich neon clockness. Whoop-ah. Yep, just like I figured. There you go. Get it out of there. Okay. Took these seal plates off. Surprisingly, we got some good cars still. We're not entirely sure this car is going to start when we're done with this whole mess. One more. Wow. The least amount of wiring in the car for something. And it was mounted. Oh my god. He really outdid himself with this head beater piece here. Let's make sure she starts up. Give her the go. Oh, she starts. Yeah. Rid of all the things that were trying to burn her down. We have not removed all bad wiring by far. Definitely made a dent in things that needed to go. All the room for activities.
Like all the wiring.
Yeah. We gotta take these guys off. Oh, that one was gonna come off. Bye-bye billiard ball. Oop, it's over there now. We're gonna pull all the horns out because they're not wired correctly anyway. And just rid of all that living under the hood. I'm gonna work on this solenoid because, you know, pro tip, if you need hots to things, you just tie it right to the battery cable. That's an inline fuse. I mean, that makes it okay. Now take lessons, everybody. This man was the master of the twisted wire. Look at that. Made like his own little wire nut. And then this little guy, just, oh yeah, all the twisted wire. The wiring loom going over to the battery is gone. Pulled it all back to here. I'm just gonna start stripping this whole thing out and pulling it back through the firewall and probably run some new wires for the starter. Now you really gotta take in what you're looking at there. That's the gas pedal hole. So we're gonna put another hole just to kind of alleviate all of that. I can kind of show you that starting sequence now because it won't exist by the time we're done. So it was key on, and then it was light switch on, that switch, and then you could start it off this horn button. So you could start it off of the physical horn itself, and there was another horn button underneath the hood you could start the car from. And yeah, that was 3 different ways to start it, and a sequence of switches that had to be on. And if you didn't get the sequence right, sometimes it would start, sometimes it wouldn't. Counterpart here has been tearing away at the front. Tranny cooler fans? Yeah, they're computer fans. They might have been doing something. I don't know. We got this little vacuum gauge here, and it's not mounted in any way, shape, or form. Due to the non-mounting, it has to go. See that fuse there? That fuse is attached to a piece of rubber hose plugging a vacuum port, because he couldn't fuse a single wire in this car, but he could totally fuse a vacuum line. Dug into this wiring harness, which is the main culprit of issues to this car. We realized fire hazard Fairlane may have actually been on fire at some point. That is some melty wire. All the melty wires. You know, speaker wire is good for everything, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Oh, the melties. This one's being stubborn. The Wallard.
It's threaded.
Oh, threaded the billiard ball on this side? Well, I don't think we threaded it as much as we just like straight up twisted it on there until it had threads. So yeah, that's fixed. Maybe the hood will close now. There's our bucket of things. There's a lot more cleanup going on, but I'm gonna bring you to the inside. That long, and it's been painted, and let's count the splices in a single wire. 1, there's 2, there's 3. There's also, notice, heavy gauge, light gauge, back to the heavy gauge, and then another one right there. I think it runs over to a radio. I'm not sure yet. He just must have got everything out of a spare wire bin.
Electrical engineer, he was not.
No, sir. Now I'm tracing the wire to get this electric fuel pump working back again with the key. And this is quality. And then it goes to more quality. So double quality. That's definitely what you want to see running your fuel pump hot underneath the car. That fancy mirror in there. Man, this guy was into his craftiness. Real crafty. So yeah, we're gonna pull that out because it wasn't doing anything anyway, and
It's not attached.
yeah, I don't think it's attached.
It's not.
So
It's got a big rubber seal around it. It's just pushed
it's just
in with
floating in there.
Yeah, it's just got the two of the little Skookumister bolts.
Sweet. Okay,
All right, cool.
this guy's gonna work on that, and I'm gonna go back to working on the fuel pump. We mounted the fuel pump. Novel ideas and grounded it super goods. All right, so yeah, it should work way better. Traced out the whole entire key switch so we could possibly run it off the key. Oh, magic idea. We've got everything hooked back up. We got a hot wire ran again now. We're gonna try to give her a shot. It runs again. All the lack of ugly wiring now. It's so nice. Taillights. Pretty sure that's a Galaxy lens, wood screwed into the housing with this little painted ring. Gives it an Audi. It's happy to see you. And then this guy will just sit something just like this. Right in there. Boom. That was a mass improvement just visually instead of the Audi lenses. We get a little headlight action. Okay, right turn signal. Yeah, that's the left. But we get the point. Other turn signal. Okay, brake lights. Tying that down this time. Good old battery acid. Shooched on some things. Stainless thing's rusty, and that's not good. Don't let your battery jump into your pulley there and chew the battery all to nothing. Do some learning here. Stud-centric or hub-centric. There's probably a spacer we can get to make it hub-centric. Also notice the back spacing on this rim barely clears the upper ball joint and control arm. These just aren't the right wheels, because I don't like it when wheels are neither hub-centric nor stud-centric at all. This is definitely the noise you want to hear. There's stuff in there going on. This adjuster was seized. This wheel cylinder was leaking. It's pretty crunchy and rusty. You can really see it on this side. That's all brake fluid down in that side, that cup. We got all the fancy DeWalt tools out. Impact, taking off all the bolties. Everywhere we got. Sawzall out, cutting off that sway bar. Drill out, studs, rivets. Here it says Lamatic. You can see that right there. Bolt for the lower control arm comes out and hits that cross member. Maybe a safety thing, I don't know. The bolt ever comes loose, it can't walk its way out. That's what Sawzalls are for. I'm not taking a bunch of stuff off to pull that bolt out. Safety! You may ask, why did we tear everything off? It's easier than trying to take every little bit apart under the car. Let's get this on the bench and get it all torn down.
Welcome to the haphazardly filming of the Fire Hazard Fairlane. Dudes with Wrenches here. I will be your narrator for the rest of this journey due to the fact that the guy filming this thing thought it'd be a great idea to narrate instead of actually talking while he filmed. Yeah, it probably wasn't the best choice of options, but here we go. This right here is a classic tale of a classic car rebuild, where we actually just put it up on jack stands to fix a lot of things that needed to be fixed to get this thing reliable and back on the road. What we did not account for is the fact that we didn't have, well, the time, the money, the patience, and the drive to actually get this done. The other side of it was, we couldn't find front-end parts that would actually fit the front of it without a full-blown scale upgrade into tubes and disc brake conversion style things. So, we ended up actually finding some stuff on Marketplace to allow us to bolt this back together, to roll it back inside. The version of the factory front end we can actually get parts for, and that's where we're going from here.
Repairing things is all good decisions. Main crank pulley, the bolts are all, loosen them by hand. That's never good.
Now this belt setup eliminated the problem of slippage and disengagement at high RPM you would receive from a traditional V-belt design. Not that this motor needed it, but Ford pulley setups can be a little harder to get as they were designed to fit the car they were on, not so much a generic one-size-fits-all. So unless you have the factory stuff lying around, you're going to be buying new anyway. This man's willingness to pay $150 to $200 for a belt and pulley system, but then not spend a dime on hardware to install it, really says something. The spare bolts bin is fine enough for most things, but there is important things on your vehicle you should probably spend a little extra and have better bolts to make sure things like tires and pulley systems don't fall off. This right here was his homemade external transmission cooler setup, and I'm gonna give him a big old attaboy because the biggest enemy to your transmission is definitely heat. But a big fail on the baling wire and mounting it the wrong way. Now everyone might argue electric fuel pump over mechanical fuel pump. I like mechanical fuel pump where it makes sense. Proper install is key when we start talking about electrical fuel pumps. This right here is a perfect example of why they're great. You can just pump all the fuel out of your tank to get rid of them. Put on that mechanical and just have reliability. Electric pumps have their place in the world, but most of the time that I've dealt with them, they were more of a band-aid than an actual repair. So maybe I just have a little more justified hate. Here's a pro tip for you when storing a vehicle: remove the battery always. It seems inconvenient, but if you do not remove the battery for long term, your car will earn a little more character than it had before. Leaking wheel cylinders and axle seals will cause big problems to your brakes, but simple things like proper adjustment to your drum brake system is critical when your vehicle has entirely a drum brake system. Don't let anybody fool you. Drum brakes will stop a car. They just need to be maintained and properly adjusted. No brainer here, rear differential repair can be litigated by rear differential maintenance. If it's leaking, fix the leak. Low fluid on your rear differential will cause a problem. Weird, right? When you blow out your rear end at 65 miles per hour on the highway, you're going to be changing your pants either way. Now let's back up a minute. Well, this guy here tears apart the third member on this Ford 8-inch rear end and gets her all cleaned up, resealed, and reinstalled. And let's have a real discussion on why we're going through a full rebuild process on a car that was running and driving. Technically, we did drive it home. We did drive it around quite a bit. It did have a lot of problems. At a certain point, you had to weigh your risk to reward ratio. We did get a lot of enjoyment out of this car. It was definitely fun to drive. We have a lot of great ideas. But we also have the issue of, do you repair something to just make it a driver, or do you blow it into pieces and make it correct, or do you build it into the thing that you ultimately dream about? Or do you do everything in between on top of each other twice over and then again? It's really hard as a car enthusiast to really capture what your idea is, make it work, do it on a budget, and do it in a timely manner. And this is definitely one of those cars that we enjoyed driving it so much that we just wanted to make it reliable. Now, anybody can drive whatever they want. I find a lot of comfort in minimalistic reliability. That means we have good brakes, we have a good battery, we have 4 tires that are black and round, and we have fluids in everything. It's not perfect, but good enough is always something. Back to our guy that's doing all the work over here. He has just realized this gas tank is an untenable issue with whatever JB Weld concoction was stuck on this back corner after it was crushed. It doesn't hold a full tank of fuel, and that becomes problematic because leaking fuel is definitely one of those concerns when it comes to a minimal amount of safety. Also, living up to the name of Fire Hazard Fairlane is not something we're actually shooting for. Now, I know a lot of you interweb people out there are going to say I've done much worse, that patch isn't falling out, so it's perfectly fine. Also, the wiring on this tank was less than nominal for a gas gauge that would function, but oh boy, look at that. The float came out with the fuel, so I don't think that was ever going to work. But enough of that, let's go back to the inside of this Fairlane and point out some things that just need to get done better, like the drywall screws that are mounting literally everything in this car. It's just not good. Now let's actually talk some history of the Ford Fairlane. Well, these guys work on this rocking chair of a front bench seat due to some stripped out bolts. Now, this 1964 doesn't have a great pedigree, and too many doors to get the love it deserves.
They put the nut on upside down.
Hey, I'm narrating here, guy. Anyway, Ford was making what they called the Thunderbolt, a race-ready drag car built to dominate on the track, and it was only in 1964. So I guess the point to that statement is, cool history, 1964, this car could have been cooler if it was that car, but it's not that car, but I still think it's cool, so that's pretty cool. Sometimes the easiest way to clean carpet in a car is to just remove it.
It's, like, remarkably really good.
Yeah, all things considered.
Now, repairing any classic car can become a rabbit hole that is hard to dig yourself out of. This being a perfect example. If we want to repair the floors properly, proper bracing, etc., the transmission has to be removed to make that happen. Also, the bracing and mounting on the transmission is, well, poorly put together and improperly welded, as this transmission never belonged in this car. On top of that, the transmission itself leaks heavily and will need new seals that cannot be installed with it in the vehicle. As these two worker bees struggle to remove said transmission, let's talk about the fact that Ford as a company did a lot of mixing and matching of things that didn't make it easy for the people who wanted to work on their car. Sourcing things that bolt together and actually fit can become kind of cumbersome when it comes to Ford Motors, and they made a lot of changes over the years and kept things very specific to what they actually went with.
Washers?
Yeah.
Oh no, we don't like seeing washers falling out. That's bad. What are we washering?
I don't know, but these just hit me in the face.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We're just gonna ignore that for right now.
Yep.
Power. Almost right on the exhaust.
Why are there more washers? Hang on just a second.
Oh, we put all pins?
That pin's out. Don't drop it on my face.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I'm gonna taunt you. Okay. Yep.
Okay. Go down one more. Kind of not centered on the jack. Oh no, that's not good. Oh no, that's bad. Oh, dang it. Okay, we're coming all the way down.
Yep. Oh, it gets even better. You just wait.
Oh no, it's bad up here too.
Don't look at it.
Oh.
I saw my end.
It's all broken. Why does it leak everywhere? I don't know. Maybe it's cracked.
Hang on, I'm just gonna.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. We don't like you anymore. Okay.
I'm gonna wear all of that. You know what I mean?
I don't. Oh,
Yep.
buddy. Oh boy.
Do you see what I was seeing?
Yeah, I'm seeing what you were seeing now.
I had the good side.
Easy, Louise. We thought we had a good C6, but best laid plans and whatnot. Oh boy. Yeah, something like that. The fact that was just in there. And he knew it was broke because he had JB welded it.
I wonder if the washes, since it didn't fit in the tunnel anyway, were intentionally torquing everything down.
Yeah, I don't know what the washers are doing up here.
I don't know. But there's so many.
I really regret power braking it at this point. Like, we shouldn't even have been driving this thing.
Oh, well, that's how the fun happens.
I guess there's other bolts. 5-speed? I don't know. Classy right there. I mean, I'm just, you're the best, Fairlane. Just the best.
Yep.
All right, let's do a little recap here on this Ford Fairlane. We bought this thing remarkably cheap. It was around $1,000 and some gift cards, to tell you the truth, but that's a different story entirely. This car was bought and meant to be driven. This was not meant to be a full-blown crazy project for us. We bought this car as a cheap, available classic that we could drive around while working on nicer classic cars we own. And we did pull that off here and there over 3 years. We drove this a lot. We've actually shown you what we had to fix along the way. This was definitely not all in one shot. We would drive it until we couldn't anymore, or until something absolutely had to be repaired, and then we brought it in and repaired it. At the end, everything got to the point where it had to be looked at and addressed to drive this car safely. Now, that being said, there's a lot of things we could have left alone and just kept driving it, and it's one of my own faults that I like to just blow things apart and know that they're right. And that's what we did on this project, and it became the limelight of a lot of what we did over the past 3 years. Now, don't get it twisted. We did build and drive many other classic cars and collectible things that we do that whole entire 3 years. There's not a lot of video on it because, well, sometimes we're not very good at YouTube. But here we are showing you this car, so don't get upset and don't take it the wrong way, because, hey, you may have done it differently out there in the interwebs, or you would have done it better. Just what we did, so get over it. Now, here's something else you should know about me. I don't subscribe to the drive junk mantra, and what I mean by that is just pull something out of the weeds, make her go, and just send her down the road with trash tires, old oil, old liquids, and just hope and pray she stays together. In my mind, that is not putting a classic back on the road. So a lot of people out there will differ with that, and a lot of people will say I'm wrong. And you're perfectly entitled to your opinion. I have done that. It's nothing new to me. It's the same as any other thing. When you're a small child and you go to the county fair and you ride the carnival ride, the thrill is there because it might hurt you. It's dangerous. And you don't understand just how dangerous it is. Your mind does not see all the things you see as you grow older and wiser. This car was a perfect example of that. In a younger age, I would have driven it until literally the wheels fell off, which was going to happen. I mean, it is enter at my own risk, but I am on the road with others, and I do enjoy having my family, children specifically, in the car with me. So this car needed to be addressed to allow that to keep happening. So when you go back to the analogy of the carnival fair rides, as a child, you do fear them, you don't understand them, and as an adult, you fear them a lot more because you realize they were put together by somebody that is not an engineer of any kind. He's just a guy who turns bolts. And that's a lot of these cars that we drive around on the road. Everything's worth checking at least once to know that it's safe. And that is my own hindrance. I like to go through and touch everything on the vehicle, even though it's not perfect, but I know it works and it functions, and it gives me a better feeling inside about putting it down the road. Everything breaks, everything's at the risk of failure at every second. Enjoy what you want to enjoy with your car the way you want to enjoy it. The way I enjoy classic cars is not in my ability to hoard as many as I can and drive few. It's to drive more, fix more, be able to throw the keys to anybody I know and just say, have a good time, don't worry about it. I enjoy these classic cars with a group of people, not just myself. The people are what makes them enjoyable, not just the piece of steel you slave your time and money into. That being said, you'll notice this vehicle is definitely not going back to the streets. It's being stripped down for, well, parts. Hopefully someday, when more time and more money is available, it can become what we always wanted, and that means tube chassis, kind of an Aussie race car burnout machine with a lot of flashy yellow ugliness. That is the true goal of this car, and we have other things we can enjoy driving. So, sorry, not sorry, this is not your standard YouTube car tale of victory and glory. This is exactly the opposite. We fixed a lot, we drove it a little, and now it gets to go park in the weeds somewhere. Not the outcome that anybody wanted, but it's the outcome that happens quite a bit that nobody wants to tell you. And maybe this car has a future, maybe it doesn't. But this car was a lot of fun while we had it, and that's all you can ask for. It definitely did make us respect more for the oddities of others and the extreme customization of some. This is not a car I would have built this way in any way, shape, or form, but owning it was enjoyable because it was just so different, yet so plain at the same time. This was not a car with pedigree or special class, but it was built that way by a man who had a dream, and he made it happen, even though the car potentially and probably was never worth fixing ever. Now you may ask, what was the real issue with this car outside of, well, a broken transmission, a lot of things that needed repaired, parts you couldn't find, but the reality of it is the unibody subframes on this car were not as good as they appeared.
It looks good, and then you get like some spots that are not good, and you figure out there's like no metal left in your tar because the layers of metal have disappeared. That's what you want to see. You just ignore stuff like that. Unibodies are the best. Layered metal. That smells like mouse death too.
That all being said, none of these things are not repairable. You could go through and replace all these things if you had the right amount of skill and time and space. Money is also an added bonus to all this, and if you really loved the car, had a reason to love the car more than one should, maybe it was Grandpa's car, maybe it was your father's car. Those are all good reasons to repair things that shouldn't be repaired. But there is no reason to repair these things the way we want the car, and it would do better as a tube chassis, as a completely restored, rebuilt something else, maybe a complete chassis swap. We haven't really decided where to go with this. We just know that this problem is not something we want to tackle for this car. So we really do appreciate it that you made it this far in the journey of the Fire Hazard Fairlane. And it was a fun vehicle to have and own and drive, and we do hope we can circle back around to it someday. But sadly, we did buy a parts car for this car, and that was kind of the final nail in the coffin, and maybe you'll see more on that in the future. Thanks for watching, and like always, have a great day.